probably the best pianist in the world, because Liszt at that time retired and stopped to give concerts. He had incredible, immense, how do you call it, influence on people. So he called all his friends, and the first teachers of these classes were the legendary Theodor Leshetitsky, who was teacher of such incredible pianists as Ignaz Paderewski, Beno Moisevich, Artur Schnabel, Ignaz Friedman, and Paul Wittgenstein. I don't know if you know him. It's the Austrian pianist that lost his right hand in the First World War, and he was commissioning pieces for this, including the Ravel left hand concerto, Prokofiev concerto, and number 4. And so they all studied with him. Henryk Wieniawski was teaching violin. I think he does not need the introduction. It's probably one of the most famous violinists of all time. Of course, such I mean, Anton Rubinstein himself was a director and the piano teacher there. So the level of professors was couldn't be better. Yeah. So of course, such teachers, they explain why the Russian culture, professional education, and so on blow up completely. It was in 10-20 years probably one of the best, if not the, I don't want to say the best, but incredibly successful results were achieved. Yeah. So apart from this, he was, of course, he himself was given a part of his salary to support the people who was not who could not afford the education. So it was so he was absolutely incredible, such a fantastic guy. So so with time, of course, there were more and more another wonderful teachers were joining, and so on. I want to talk a little bit, or maybe between this all, I'm going to show you, using my incredible knowledge of Zoom, hold on, where am I? I'm here. Share the screen. Okay, so this is the building of the, this is actually the postcard of the building of the St. Petersburg Conservatory. Quite incredible, no? And this is, I wanted to also to show you no, this is the Moscow Conservatory. I'm sorry. This is one of the chamber hall of the conservatory. Absolutely fascinating. And here on top, it's some wonderful painting, and this is very, very old photo that I found. Another thing I wanted to show you, since we are here now, is the Rubinstein brothers themselves. So here they are. This is Anton, very serious, and his brother. Yeah. Anything else I want to show now? No, I don't. Stop the sharing. Did it work? Okay, super. I feel so powerful with this screen sharing. Okay. So what was happening in Moscow? So it was actually really well done from them. So they kind of, two brothers, they separated the areas, and Nikolai, he founded Moscow Russian, kind of the filial of this musical society in Moscow. He also opened the musical classes, less successfully in a way, because he was actually giving lessons in his flat. And the main, okay, I'm going to follow this. It's better because I'm going to, again, detour completely, and it's going to be a mess. Yeah, so what he did, he opened the classes for the singing and piano. He was teaching piano himself, and incredibly well. Yeah, he had Alexander Zelot, if anyone know it, actually, yeah, the cousin of Sergei Rachmaninoff, also studied with him. Later on, he was one of professors also in Moscow Conservatory, one of the main ones. Yeah, and
what's Nikolai's last name, please? Nikolai. What's his last name, please?
It's Rubinstein, right?
Yeah, the two brothers, Nikolai and Anton.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, you're in the halfway mark, Ilya. So
oh no, don't tell me that. I'm going to skip this. So in 1866, he decided to found. They finally founded the Moscow Conservatory, which was 4 years later. He invited one of the best teachers from first graduates of St. Petersburg Conservatory to teach in Moscow. So, for example, the composer Piotr Tchaikovsky, who finished, graduated, was invited to teach there. He did not have any money, so Rubinstein Nikolai, he put him to live in his flat. It was such a family atmosphere. Oh, I wish it was like that now. Yeah, and he was giving the lessons. For many years he was teaching there. I think theory of music or harmony, something like that. Yeah. So what happens afterwards? So one of the main mottos were they really wanted to prepare not only virtuosos and so on, but really properly serious musicians. They wanted students were obliged to know everything about the art, literature. So one of the first meetings, Nikolai said that to make not only the professional musicians, but make the musicians in the widest meaning of it words. Yeah, so it was like this. So it was very important. The system was 9 years, divided in 2. So it was quite tough. After the middle one, you had to make the exam in order to pass to the second level. It was incredibly hard, and only the best of the best could access the last step of the education. Nikolai also wanted for this graduation and for the second one to prepare the program by themselves, because he did not want the students to actually copy what the professor said, but he wanted to see at what stage they are of the development to actually show what they can do themselves. And even if it was a catastrophe, it was very important to see what they are actually able to do. Yeah. So about this, I said, of course, the theory of the music, harmony, orchestration, instrumentation, composition was on the highest possible level. Yep. So so that students and pianists could dive into the musical material at as deep as possible. Yeah. So so, okay, I think I'm going to slowly move to another, because I think, don't have much time anymore because of my horrible organization here with things, but life is life. So, things that I wanted to talk to you about and say is, so, some of the most phenomenal, in my opinion, professors and things that happened during this is one of which is Nikolai Zverev. I'm gonna drop it here. Nikolai Zverev. You can Google him and read maybe something. Oops, I directed someone. Oops. Sorry, everyone. Yep, this was the guy who was eventually a professor at the Moscow Conservatory. He actually founded a pensionat, which was basically his flat, for the most talented students. So alongside his students are now, attention, Sergei Rachmaninov, Alexander Ziloty, Alexander Skryabin, and Nikolai Igumnov. Oh, Konstantin Igumnov, I'm very sorry. These are, I mean, every name of those is maybe Igumnov, you don't know, but we're going to talk about him. He's amazing. Yeah. So they all lived in his flat. And from the very early age, he was taking care of their education. He was taking care of the discipline. They were obliged to practice from 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, in total, it was, I think, 6 hours in total. So they had different schedule. And he was, Professor Zverev was sleeping next door. So when there was no piano, he was knocking and the punishment was coming. Every week completely, they were going, if not more, I think, they were going to the opera theaters, to the theater. His doors were always opened to one of the most prominent musicians. So the kids were from the early age surrounded by the highest possible level of musicianship, the talks, the topics, everything was there. So I think it was very important, very important and quite incredible. I think in a way unique thing in musical education, maybe I would say in the whole Europe. Yeah, another guy that I probably want to talk very quickly is Vasily Safonov. He was a director actually of the later on of the Moscow Conservatory. He was now, attention, he was the main he was the main conductor of New York Philharmonics. He was a director of National Conservatory of Music of America and premiered an incredible amount of Russian music actually in America. So his students that studied with him, I think that you probably want to know, is Skryabin, who he completely adored and was always saying that he's unique because he is unique. Metner, Nikolai Metner. You can drop the message if you don't know Nikolai Metner, because if no, I'm going to put a piece of music. It's absolutely stunning. And then probably what you would want to know is that he also taught two people who are incredibly important for the development of classical music and piano school in States. It's Joseph Levin and Rosina Levin, yeah, who were eventually were at the base of the Juilliard School and taught many wonderful people, including Van Cliburn. Will I describe the actual technique? I'm going to talk maybe about this a little bit later when I will finish these things of mine, hopefully at some point. He was actually quite a tyrann, and was he had maybe you would be interested to hear the story. He was conducting himself all the premieres of because the compositional faculty at the end of the graduation, they had to play the piece, yeah, and he would conduct the pieces by the students. And when Rachmaninoff was presented his first concerto, normally what Safonov was doing, he was cutting everything. No, this is bad, we do this, we do that. But Rachmaninoff was completely opposite. He was actually stopping him and saying, excuse me, maestro, you are not doing this, what I wrote, you are not doing that. So it was a big scandal. And the cellist from the student orchestra actually has a memoir about it. Quite wonderful. Also, Safonov really didn't like Rachmaninoff, because at that time when you were entering the conservatory, it was not that professor was taking you. It was completely opposite. You at the entrance, you could choose anyone you want to study with. So it's incredible. And he chose Rachmaninoff at that time chose Alexander Ziloty, who was quite young, and Safonov was already a maître. And he was, of course, his ego was wounded. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, so meanwhile, let's talk maybe a little bit about the schools, because I see that we have approximately some good 20 minutes, hopefully more. Yeah, Lulu? Yeah, okay. So I would maybe separate it, the St. Petersburg school and Moscow school, who actually at times were competing quite a lot with each other. And actually Grigory Sokolov, who was from St. Petersburg and won the Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow, it was a scandal, nuclear bomb. So so I want to talk a little bit about this too. As I mentioned, Theodor Leshetitsky, who was at the beginning of foundation of St. Petersburg Conservatory, he had a wonderful student, actually, who this Leshetitsky, he married her, so-called Yesipova. Yeah, Anna Yesipova. Yes, so she was, for many years, she was one of the leading professors, fantastic pianist, and so on. But after her, there was a wonderful professor whose student most of you probably know. It's so the professor is Nikolaev. Yeah, I think Leonid Nikolaev. I'm gonna drop it again. I don't know why my Zoom always wants to chat with Anita Lopez. That's strange. Leonid Nikolaev. Yeah, something like this. So, and talking about actual techniques, I will try to more or less touch their what was important, and for every professor, what actually they wanted from students. Okay. But eventually, you know, they all were going several different ways, but the result was basically always the same. So Nikolaev, he studied with one of the students of the Leshetitsky in Kiev, and he also studied with Safonov in Moscow. So he graduated Moscow Conservatory and was teaching in St. Petersburg. Yeah. Safonov was saying that he was so talented that I was not having enough time to say him things, because he was doing everything just like that. Yeah, and and he had incredible analytic mind, and of course this really helped him in the future. He was incredibly precise, and he could easily show and explain how to do exactly what, because he was not a great virtuoso himself. So he had to spend a great amount of time in order to actually understand how to find the problem and how to solve it. So this was a very important things. Some of the students of his that probably you would know is Dmitry Shostakovich, Vladimir Safranitsky, one of the greatest performer and pianist of 20th century. Then Maria Yudina. If you want, I'm going to drop these names as well in the chats, but I'm pretty sure you must be familiar with that. And I also want to mention one name that actually somehow directly affects me as well. It's Samary Savshinsky. Actually, I haven't really heard about him so much, but he was a teacher of the Pavel Gililov, whose assistant I am right now. Yeah, so directly somehow I even caught the St. Petersburg line of education. Yeah, and actually one of his person that he studied with, Pavel Gililov, my professor, was Grigory Sokolov, who I'm sure all know. Yeah, one of the biggest, most important. Yeah, so Nikolaev was, as well as all the basically names I'm going to mention now, was one of his most important things was to widen and enrich the erudition of his students. So he was talking a lot about literature, poetry. It was, as well as for later on for Goldenweiser, for Neuhaus, the main essence to be as use as much information, as much inspiration from other forms of art in order to apply it. And because at the end of the day, I think I was thinking also, what is the main essence Russian music? What was Russian music important? Is that the priority of the, I think then the priority of this of the content over I don't know, effects, something like that. So that's why so many people say, yeah, that, well, the Russian musicians are so serious, so deep, because that I think for generations it was incredibly important to know everything about everything. So it was not allowed to say, you know, I don't like Enescu. Yes, or Neuhaus was saying that you cannot say that you don't like something until you know it upside down. Yeah, and then only then you can say, yeah, this is probably not for me. So this was, but I'm again jumping everywhere. So it's worth mentioning this Nikolaev guy. Yeah. Meanwhile, what was going on in Moscow? I want to talk about Konstantin Igumnov. I mentioned already that he studied with Professor Zverev in his pensionat, one of his students. Yeah. So he actually studied also together with Scriabin, Rachmaninoff, Metner. So it's approximately this generation of people. Yeah. He was never a virtuoso player as well, but he was in one of the finest and most I don't know, I don't want to say musical. Yeah, he was a true musician. And using these wonderful technologies of 21st century, I want to actually put you a small recording of his. Hold on. Share screen. Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful.
So you can actually find some other recordings of his on YouTube if you want. Yep, I'm going to. Yeah. Everyone wants to talk about the techniques. So Igumnov, techniques and so on. I was trying to find the materials and some reminiscences of his students who worked with him. And he was, for him, the most incredible and the most important thing was the balance, the quality of the sound. He could spend hours on just how to take the sound, or the chord, how should it sound. He was always saying that it's in a way like a conductor's work, to create a perfect balance between the top, where is the solo, how to bring out the melody. Basically, main work of his was to train not the fingers, but ears. So this is basically all the teachers in Russian school, the culture of sound, the culture of trying to avoid the percussion side of piano was always the priority. Yeah, so Igumnov was always talking about this, and this was his one of the most important things. Yeah, if you listen to other generally Russian pianists, Nikolai Metner or Sergei Rachmaninoff, how they play, it's pure singing. There was never, the thing that I really always like to quote is from the book of Fyodor Shalapin, the legendary Russian bass, who was saying that when I perform with Sergei Rachmaninoff, I cannot say that I sing, but we sing. So I think this is the quintessence generally of the Russian school is singing sound, quality of sound, and development of ears. Yeah. Among, of course, self-development and so on. Yeah, I want to also mention a few students of his that Igumnov had. It's Lev Aborin, the first winner of Chopin competition, who actually later on was a teacher of Vladimir Ashkenazy, and who you probably also have heard, and Gennady Rождественский. This is legendary Russian conductor. And Mikhail Voskresensky, who is also one of the leading professors and pianists in Russia. He's around 92 right now already, but he's still playing concerts every month. Bela Davidovich, who probably majority of people in the United States is very familiar with, because she is living in United States, and she worked as a professor in Juilliard School for many years. She's also, I think she won the Chopin competition as well, or got second. I think first prize, pretty sure. I think the second Chopin competition. Yeah, and many others. Actually, Lev Aborin did, but I don't have time to talk about how he got the program of the competition 3 weeks before, and Igumnov took him, and they prepared out of all the list of the pieces, he only had 1/3, and in 3 weeks, Lev Aborin and Igumnov, they prepared for it. He went and brought the first prize. Yeah. Another line of his is Yakov Flier, another student of Igumnov, whose line goes to Mikhail Pletnev, or Pletnev, how some people say in Western countries. So it everything comes from this legendary Konstantin Igumnov, one of the biggest bricks in Russian school. So I'm sure you're going to find a lot of good material about him in the internet, and listen to the recordings. A lot of interesting recordings. Yeah, so here I have a couple of yeah, exactly, talking about this. So the sound quality, and he was not techniques about Igumnov and so on. Yeah, so he was constantly saying that you are not allowed to find the color effects which are not tied with the meaning of the piece, with its content. Yeah. So the intonation was one of the main carrier of the content as well. So this is another very important thing that nowadays no one talks about, is that our words in music is are the intonations. No one is intonating, yeah, right now. So it's very, very, very important also for the Russian school. Yeah. Another thing was what was.
Could you explain that a little bit more?
About what, the intonation and so on?
Yeah. And how
Yes.
that's
Yeah, I mean, like
from sound or color and all those. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
What do you mean by intonation?
What do I mean by intonation? That different intervals, as well as, because piano is unfortunately a percussion instrument. If we have a big interval in the voice in singing or on the violin, and you actually feel the tension that creates between it. When I reach violin, there is a natural tension that creates, because I have to reach there, right? The same with singing. I cannot, just do because it's a nonsense. Yeah. So this attention to the intervals, their meanings in music, it was incredibly important. I hope I explained myself well. If not, drop the message. I'll try to explain somehow in a different way.
The tension between the intervals.
Yeah, the tension between the notes, the real legato, therefore, that it's not, the interval is not just taram, yeah, but there is something in between them, yeah. There is this work that you have to do in between sometimes, yeah.
Like a singer.
In a way, yeah, exactly. So again, Igumnov and his approach, that he really wanted these other students actually to work by themselves and do. He was always guiding, pushing, but the last drop the student had to do himself. Let's finish a little bit with Igumnov here, because there is a quite big topic in front, is Alexander Goldenweiser. Yeah, this is a emblematic person in Russian music piano education. It's first of all, we have to talk about him not only as a professor, but as a musician in wider. He had incredible analytical mind, made immense amount of editions, including Beethoven, all sonatas, Mozart sonatas. At that time, it was so important. Yeah, he actually taught for 71 years in total. Yeah, and he was one of the first big professors, let's say, who taught not only the adults, but he was also teaching the kids. So, and on this base was later on created the Moscow Central School, which was the factory of prodigies that came. Basically, everyone every Russian musician which is on the highest level right now, they all went through it. Many. Yeah, the majority of them. Yeah. He had many friends in the literature circle, and he also had kind of like a lot of friendships within the musicians. He knew all the composers of his time. He was he heard Tchaikovsky. He knew just Rimsky-Korsakov, Glazunov, Taneyev, Safonov, Arensky, Zilotti, Scriabin, Metner, Prokofiev, Shostakovich, Igumnov, Neuhaus, they were all his closest friends, yeah, and colleagues. His line of work was, he was incredibly precise and very detailed with the text, which is in a way you can follow it from his editor work, I guess. So it was incredibly important for him to be insanely precise with the every slur, dot, articulation, dynamics, tempos, and so on. And his motto was that you must do it, and no individuality can suffer from being as close to the text as you can. Yeah, let me talk about this maybe a little bit more.
Ilya, we probably should try to wrap it up so that we can ask you questions. I'm sure there are
Okay.
lots of questions.
Okay. So one of his students is Dmitry Bashkirov, who is widely known, fantastic musician, and Feinberg, Ginsburg, and Rosetta Markina, the people that are not widely known but are incredibly good musicians. Dmitry Bashkirov, everyone knows, but I'm Bashkirov. Yeah. Yeah. So another one I would like to mention is Samuel Feinberg. He's perhaps one of the most genius performers of 20th century, yet completely unknown. And I have as well as all the colleagues of mine, this is going to be one of the persons to discover yet, because he as a performer is a monster. He played so many things, and so well. He knew Bach like no one. On his graduational exams in the conservatory, he proposed to the commission all preludes and fugues by Bach, all 48 of them, which is, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours of music just like that, apart from the other music. He was a wonderful composer who composed approximately 50 opuses, including more than 10 sonatas, immense amount of transcriptions, one of which I really want to put to you, even though there is no time, but it's really worth it. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. Unfortunately, we have a big topic in front of us, which is Henrik Neuhaus. But I guess we unfortunately don't really have time about that. I'll just say a couple of phrases maybe about him, because this is such a personality. And it's a pity that we don't get to talk about this. So he was probably one of the biggest and the most famous teachers in Russia, the professor of Svetoslav Richter and Emil Gilels. Even though there are so many more incredible pianists that studied with him, including Lev Naumov, Yakov Zak, Alexei Lyubimov, and Vladimir Krainev, all insanely first league pianists. And I just want to say that his classes were always like a performance. In a way, it was always full. People from all the country were coming to listen to his lessons, and it was every time like in a way show, but in a good way. Yeah. I found one thing, and I hope Lulu will forgive me, but I really have to show you this. I found the video of the lesson of where were you? Yeah.
Маргарита
This
Федорова
is
сдает этюд
Neuhaus.
Скрябина профессору Генриху Нейгаузу.
Хорошо, но можно бы немножко живее.
Good, but can be faster.
Указано больше акселерандо.
You need to make more accelerando at the end.
Немножко суше, немножко меньше педали.
More dry the left hand and less pedal.
Ускоряю до самого конца. Пианиссимо. Ну вот примерно.
Народный артист республики Александр Борисович Гольденвейзер.
This is Alexander Goldenweiser.
Его игру часто слушал Лев Николаевич Толстой. Многие толстовские страницы навеяны этой игрой. Любовь к искусству, понимание назначения.
Okay.
Wow, that was fabulous. I have never seen Neuhaus.
So this is the first one was the Neuhaus and his small lecture. There are actually plenty of material on YouTube if you would like to, even with the exist also with English subtitles. So it's easy to understand, which is, I think, great. And the second part of this small video was Alexander Goldenweiser. I actually unfortunately had to cut it. He's accompanying the first Chopin concerto to one of his students, who actually lately plays phenomenally good. So I want to finish this all maybe with one of the phrases of his of Neuhaus, is that which is incredibly important, I think, that in order to talk, in order to speak, you have to have the right to be listened, and you have to not only to know how to talk, but first of all have something to say. And I think this is we can apply it to the Russian music school, that the mission of it was to go as deep as possible into the art, to be to be an artist in the wider, in the big sense of this word. Yeah, thank you very much for everyone, and for your attention. I hope you found several passages of my lecture interesting, and please ask me whatever you want. I'll try to be helpful with whatever I know.
Thank you very much. That was
Thank you.
wonderful. Yes. Ah, okay. I was really struck by the Newhouse video, because I have the actual translation of The Art of Piano Playing by Newhouse.
Really
Teacher
wonderful.
is a big fan of his. In fact, I don't know what the connection, I don't remember the connection is, but if anybody wants to read the English translation of Newhouse's writings on learning the piano, send me an email. I'll be happy to share the PDF files with you. I have, okay? All right.
Actually, I also wanted to drop the link to the to his book, because I think it's interesting.
In Russian or in English?
No, of course in English.
Okay. Oh, that would be great. Yeah, how do we do that? Maybe we'll gather that and I'll email that out to all the meetup folks who registered for this event. Okay, so we go back and look at the questions. The first one, I guess, was about Chopin's preludes, and I'm not sure there was an easy answer to that. How does someone like Trifonov play those preludes so wonderfully and in perhaps the Russian way?
Honestly, I don't think if there is any particular Russian way of playing Chopin. First of all, Chopin's music is so precise, and it really doesn't allow much of interpretation, honestly, like, for example, the music of Bach or other composers, because he really knew perfectly what he wants. And I'm not really familiar with Trifonov's performance of it. Maybe there is some new stuff that he does, which I don't know. Yeah, but I think that Chopin's music in general is so international that I don't think there is really a Russian specific way of playing it.
Yeah, I agree. And Trifonov is a wonderful musician who has evolved over the years as well. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question from Brianna. She studied at a Russian school as a teenager with a teacher from Yerevan.
Wow.
Interesting comment. Yeah. She's pretty young, so I would imagine, Brianna, this is probably what, 5-7 years ago?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you know if the Russian schools have been established in the United States from Russia, or are these like independent schools from people?
If there is any, I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear well.
Like, are the Russian schools, like the one that I studied at, are these established like from Russia for the Russian school in the United States, or are they from like?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it must be somehow connected with because also in Soviet time, I think there was such thing as like when you graduate, they were sending you to work at certain places, cities, and so on in the country, and or other places where so I'm pretty sure that it's somehow, of course, must be connected to the Russian school.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Moving down, I see that.
How many hours do you practice every day?
Say that again.
How many? There was also a question. How many hours do I practice every day?
Right.
Yeah, it depends. Now it's complicated, but Normally it was in my best years when I was really crazy, I was practicing up to 8-9 hours maybe. I had a year when I was actually I made a huge progress. When I was studying in Spain, my first year when I was studying with Stanislav Pochekin, who is actually a student of Theodor Gutmann, who studied with Heinrich Neuhaus. Yeah, yeah, but later on, there is no really need to practice that much. Now I practice even sometimes few days, no practice at all. Then I can practice 2 weeks straight if I have an event in front of me. So yeah, it's
Varies.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Bob had a question. But what past Russian composer is in need of a revival? Who is the most recent Russian composer whose compositions should be investigated? Bob, I'm not sure really understand the question. Do you want to ask it, clarify it?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my question really was, is there a composer that we have missed out on from, let's say, back in the day, let's say the 1800s or the even before, that needs to have a revival or be investigated? And the other thing is that what Russian composer, I'm thinking of Gubalalina, for instance, or someone of that order that needs to be looked at in a modern day compositional and study. Does that make sense?
Look, yeah, obviously. I mean, Gubaidulina, it's pretty recent. I mean, it's now. So talking about the most recent times, I would probably say Ustvolskaya, Galina Ustvolskaya, but she had actually anniversary of her birth not long ago. There were events everywhere. Galina Ustvolskaya, I will write here. Galina Ustvolskaya. I'm pretty sure the majority, including me, you really need time to actually read and be prepared to hear her music, because this is very, very special. Yeah, and on the first glance, it might sound like a little bit psycho, but there is something in this music. Yeah, talking about the composers that I think should have a revival. I'm pretty sure that Nikolai Medtner is underrated massively, and if you have time and will, please listen to his composition. He also needs a little bit time. He doesn't talk to you directly, so you will need a little bit of time to listen to his music. Nikolai Medtner. Yeah. He was an incredible pianist himself. He actually performed many normal standard repertoire as well.
Yes,
including
beautiful.
Appassionata.
The one I've heard is The Lark by Medtner. Was it
The Lark?
It's a
Wasn't
gorgeous
it
piece. Maybe
Balakirev Glinka? Could be The Lark.
Oh, I can't remember, but I have saved a Medtner piece because I thought it would be something worth studying, except it was very difficult. So
yeah, actually, I have prepared one of the videos, also him playing one short composition of his. I will perhaps drop you the link, and if someone has time, you can you can listen to it.
Okay, next question from Gordon is, will you describe the actual techniques? I don't know if it's possible to do that.
It's really hard to describe really techniques, because first of all, all the professors, everyone worked incredibly individually with every student. Yeah, what I can say from my own experience. Yeah, and I actually studied with the teacher who studied with Neuhaus herself, so the direct contact. Yeah, so she was always making accent. The most important is to develop the character and try to give as many contrasted pieces less, of course, we had technique, obviously we had scales, etudes, and so on, but it was incredibly important, just the small pieces by Schumann, Tchaikovsky, different characters, try to actually awaken the imagination and the imaginary process of playing. Yeah, that it's not only beautiful tune, but that you actually try to deliver the even if at the first years of playing, it was pretty, I don't want to say primitive, because Tchaikovsky cannot be primitive, yeah, but the death of the doll, yeah, it's things like that. So this was always the goal, always the content, the idea, so of course, obviously there was a lot of work, technique as well, forming of hands, yeah, but again, someone has more nature in, let's say, technique, but it was always, technique was on the background. Yeah, first was what, and then how.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was always like this, that technique without idea is nothing, the idea without technique is impossible. So somehow the main goal that I was always hearing, that the technique, so-called virtuosity, it's nothing without the content. And my teacher was always saying that playing slow but incredible phrasing nocturne, it's much more virtuoso than play etude or something, because the sound quality and the balance, how you hear, it's this is, she was saying always, this is virtuosity, and this not interesting by itself.
Interesting, good comments. Yeah. Georgina had a question about talking to other pianists who studied at the conservatories during Russian times, Soviet times. I've heard it's a standard list of repertoire and technical exercises for each year of study. Are these still in use?
No, not really. I mean, of course, like, look, if there are 48 preludes and fugues, yeah, some of them already after years of experience of teaching, you can give for a certain purpose. Yeah, C minor first book for some burning emotions. Yeah, then this one is for that, this one is for that. So of course there was this this list. It's not really used, but still, of course, teachers, they know what to give, when to give, what is. There was always one too advanced and one is a little bit too early, but to make it perfect. It was always the goal. One is a little bit still in a struggle, and one it had to be perfectly done. So this, yeah, and not and list of repertoire and technical exercises.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then this is the last written question from Bob again. To help with singing lines in piano performance, is there any solfege used in teaching?
In teaching piano, any solfeggio? I'm afraid I don't
much
know.
in Russia?
Excuse me?
Are you saying it's not used very much in Russia?
I mean, we had solfeggio from the very first year until the very last year of our, but we had our, to help with singing lines in piano performance. What do you mean, like to sing the piano melody?
Well, your teacher always, I'm sure, told you to sing the line before you played it. Certainly, you would sing the lines to be able to play it. No,
not really.
No, I was wondering if
really.
they taught solfege, where you would teach interval singing as well to accompany with your piano practice as well.
Yeah, I mean, this we were doing mostly on solfeggio. At the piano lessons, we would not really sing it unless it would be a polyphony. In polyphony, in Bach music, sometimes some really dedicated teachers, they would force to, for example, play voice 1, 2, and the third one to sing, which is insanely hard, but develops everything. Yeah, in the solfeggio, though, we had, of course, accompanying to ourselves, singing romance, playing incredibly hard as well. So I don't know, solfeggio, we had just a separate subject for that. Yeah, so
like you had have a choir, for instance, you would sing in a choir. That's where you would get your solfege, and then if you could take some of those techniques with your practice, you would apply it there.
No, not only, excuse me, not only like I'm Brazilian. In Brazilian Conservatoire, we have solfeggio classes, specifically solfeggio. I'm pretty sure that in Russia as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was one of the main subjects
Yes.
in the education. Solfeggio was as important as the piano.
Yeah, and also dictation.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally right.
To develop the sense of hearing. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions before we wrap this up? Well, you can unmute yourself and give Ilya a big hand here. This is wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much again. I'm sorry it ran over a little bit. I'm sure all of us stayed because we enjoyed it. Also, just as a reminder, we have upcoming events coming up, and I would like to ask Connie to talk about the next two events. Connie is our program director.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, Ilya, that was quite a spectacular amount of information, and it was just absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. As Lulu says, I am the program chairman. We have several events scheduled for the remainder of the year. The very first one that's coming up, our summer program is July the 17th. We don't have a number of people signed up yet, but hopefully that will increase. Then we are just absolutely overjoyed to have Seymour Bernstein doing a masterclass for us in August the 14th. All of our programs are usually Saturday afternoon. You don't want to miss Seymour Bernstein, first of all, because who he is and the fact that he is now 94 years old. And we just can't wait to be able to see his expertise. In September, there is a community concert. October the 9th, we have our fall recital. November the 13th, we have Duets and More, which is yearly program, as is the December holiday celebration. So we are inviting everybody, and anybody who enjoys playing piano, please register. You can go to events at amateurpianists.org, or you can register for amateur pianists through Meetup. So we look forward to seeing as many happy faces as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, the Seymour one, I'm not sure we posted it yet, but that is a huge scoop that we have. Speaking of teachers that Ilya talked about, the Russian professors, and Seymour certainly merits credit at 94 to be teaching after a very successful concert career.
He is a charming man. He has a very nice sense of humor. He's just a joy to listen to.
Yes, so make sure you don't miss that. We're planning is it August 14th. Okay, and with that, we want to thank Ilya again and everybody else for hanging in there. I know this is a longer session, and have a wonderful month. We'll see you next month at the summer recital.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.